Hello. So the number 8 has been seen as a symbol of cosmic balance, karmic law, eternal return, even personal power. It represents evolution. It is tied to the spiral motion of cycles, ever moving, ever progressing. It symbolizes the unstoppable flow of time like an hourglass constantly shifting. And across ancient cultures, it held different meanings. So let's go back, way back, to ancient Sumer, cradle of civilization. The number 8 was significant in Mesopotamian cosmology. The Babylonians were masters of time and they tracked celestial movements with stunning accuracy. They had an 8-pointed star representing Ishtar or Inanna, the goddess of love, war, and fertility. And she was associated with the planet Venus, whose cycle forms an 8-year pattern when viewed from Earth. And they watched the heavens closely and they noticed. So it became a number of cosmic rhythm and celestial order. The Maya were doing the same thing, and they were perhaps the finest astronomers of the ancient world, watching Venus honoring its 8-year cycle. They built their temples and calendars around it. For them, number 8 was a code, a cipher of the universe. Now, the Aztecs later carried this torch. In the ritual calendar, the Tonalpouli, numbers weren't just markers of time, they were energies, each with its own gods and qualities. Now, if one's life path fell on the number 8, it was said one carried the power of balance between life and death, creation and destruction, a sacred duality. In ancient Greece, Pythagoras and his followers believed numbers were the building blocks of the universe. Pythagoras called 8 the first evenly even number because true balance requires both sides to be equal. He taught that each side of the scale should hold a perfect cube, the number 4. So in the number 8, we find symmetry, harmony, and perfect equilibrium. But more than that, 8 became part of mystical cosmology, and this made it special not just mathematically but symbolically, because the cube was a symbol of solidity, manifestation, and perfection in the material world. And number 8 was the gateway to understanding how form emerges from chaos. Now, in Pythagorean numerology, 8 is associated with balance, harmony, and cosmic order. It is a number of structure and stability, but not stasis. It is a doubled form of 4, which is the number of material completeness, and implies a dynamic interaction between opposites, justice and power, will and restraint. Now, the number 8 in some texts is said to be sacred to Dionysus, who was said to be born in the 8th month. The island of Naxos was dedicated to him, and it was believed that only there could children born in the 8th month survive, unlike elsewhere where such births were often fatal. Normally, only 7th or 9th month births were viable. In Hermetic and Gnostic traditions, the Ogdoad, or the Eightfold, were 8 primordial Egyptian deities, consisting of 4 husband-wife partners, or a sacred group of 8 deities, a realm of 8 spheres, representing the heavenly realms just above Earth, but still beneath divine perfection. And to pass through the Ogdoad was to undergo a spiritual ascent, from the material to the eternal. In medieval Europe, numbers were sometimes hidden in cathedrals and alchemical texts, so their 8 became the number of resurrection. And that was because Christ rose on the 8th day, a symbolic extension of the 7-day week. Now, many baptismal fonts in Gothic churches were 8-sided, and this was kind of like architectural whisper of rebirth. In modern numerology, 8 is considered the number of the material world. It's about achievement, money, executive power. If 7 is the philosopher, 8 is the CEO. It is structured, disciplined, goal-driven, and usually karmic. If you've earned your success, 8 delivers it. If not, well, Saturn has a way of collecting its debts. And this belief has subtly made its way into our culture too, through business branding, real estate strategies, even the psychology of casino design. Did you ever notice how slot machines love repeating 8s? Now, people really believe 8 brings wealth, like actual money. In Chinese culture, the number 8, Ba, is prized because it sounds similar to Fa, which means to prosper or make a fortune. And this is more than symbolic, it is practical. In China, people pay thousands to get phone numbers, license plates, even apartment floors that include multiple 8s. The Beijing Olympics officially opened on 8th of August 2008 at exactly 8:08 p.m. And that's no accident, that was designed. It was meant to invite success on a national or even on cosmic scale. But this association with abundance isn't exclusive to China. In Feng Shui, 8 governs one of the Bagua trigrams, part of the energy map used to balance homes, business, and lives. In spellwork and ritual, you might find 8 coins, 8 candles, or 8 repetitions of a chant, all aiming to unlock abundance. Then the octagon, an 8-sided shape that appears in Gothic baptismal fonts, Islamic star motifs, and Buddhist mandalas, and 8 sides because it represents transition, a step beyond the perfection of the circle into the structure of the square. It's the bridge between heaven and earth. But here's the irony. 8 is both lucky and demanding. It's a number that rewards effort, but not without challenge. It asks you to build something lasting, something real. And in that sense, it's a very Saturnian kind of luck. Slow, steady, and earned. So the number 8 hasn't always been seen as fortunate. In fact, many have given it a more ominous interpretation, linking it to misfortune, imperfection, loss, ruin, decay, even death. And yes, 8 can represent those aspects, but only to those who fear evolution, who resist the lessons that life and the great universal laws bring for our growth. Because ultimately, evolution means becoming, ever becoming. Whatever has fulfilled its purpose must make way for something higher, something greater. That's the natural order of things. Since growth can only happen by harvesting what's been sown, the number 8 becomes a perfect symbol of balance, of cause and effect. It's no coincidence that the path of the psychic breath in the body forms a perfect figure 8. But this too must be understood from an esoteric perspective. The breath holds many hidden truths, and all of them point toward human evolution. And the number 8 can be seen as a balance, a symbol of the soul being weighed. And this image was especially significant to the ancient Egyptians. And one of the vignettes from chapter 30 of the Book of the Dead, translated by the English Egyptologist Sir Ernest Alfred Thompson Wallis Budge, shows exactly that. In this illustration, the deceased sits in one pan of a scale while their heart is placed in the other. And this image appears in different forms throughout Egyptian funerary texts. When turned on its side, number 8 becomes the infinity symbol. Now we take that for granted today, but that symbol was first popularized in this form by the 17th century English mathematician John Wallis. To occultists, it was soon adopted as a symbol of eternal cycles, Ouroboros return, and the interconnectedness of all things. In magic, 8 is used in the wheel of the year, the 8 Sabbats, or 8 seasonal festivals marking the seasons in modern pagan and Wiccan traditions. And these festivals mirror the Earth's cyclical nature, just like Venus or just like infinity. In astrology, the number 8 is associated with Scorpio, the 8th sign of the zodiac, known as intense, secretive, and transformative. Now, Scorpio rules the 8th house, the house of death, rebirth, physical intimacy, and hidden knowledge. Not exactly light topics. And in numerology, the modern kind that took root in the 19th century with occultists like Madame Blavatsky and Aleister Crowley, 8 is the number of power, ambition, and karmic balance. It is said to carry the energy of Saturn, the planet of time, discipline, and consequence. Now also the 8th letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Het. It is the first of the simple letters and corresponds to the zodiac sign Cancer, so adding another layer of symbolic meaning to the number 8. So depending on who you ask, the number 8 sits under the gaze of 2 planets, Saturn and Pluto. So let's start with Saturn. In traditional numerology, Saturn is the planet most closely linked to the number 8. And it makes sense. Saturn governs time, discipline, karma, and structure. It's the planet that builds skyscrapers and breaks egos. It asks you to work hard, wait patiently, and accept consequences. And in that way, 8 becomes the number of earned power. Not a windfall, but a reward. No shortcuts and no cheating the cycle. But in modern esoteric thought, there's another planetary force, and that's Pluto, the modern ruler of Scorpio. Now, Pluto doesn't really care about rules. Pluto cares about transformation, death and rebirth, secrets, physical stuff, power, control, the messy, magnificent underworld of the human psyche. And that's what the 8th house in astrology governs. The part of natal chart tied to the occult, inheritance, taboos, and spiritual evolution. So while Saturn teaches to build an empire, Pluto teaches how to burn it down and build something perhaps better. It is destruction with purpose or transformation through fire. One fixed star can be associated with this theme and number, and that's Antares, the red heart of the Scorpion, one of the 4 ancient royal stars. It is said to bestow ambition, glory, but also danger, especially if one's pursuit of power becomes obsession. It's a star that warns even as it empowers. But just to clarify, there's no single official fixed star assigned to the number 8 across all traditions. But Antares is symbolically resonant due to its placement in Scorpio and its themes of power and intensity. In Kabbalistic thought, which influenced tarot development in the 18th and 19th centuries, 8 is often associated with Hod on the Tree of Life, representing reason, logic, and intellectual strength in the spiritual world of form. Now, if we dive into the tarot itself, the number 8 appears in the major arcana. Now, depending on the tarot tradition you're using, whether it's the older Marseille style or the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, the number 8 is either justice or strength. So let's explore both. So in the Marseille tradition and most early decks of the 15th to 17th centuries, the 8th card is Justice, a woman seated on a throne between the two pillars of the Solomon's temple, Yachin and Boaz. She represents the Great Mother, the source of nurturing love and perfect balance, and it is through her care and impartial justice that humanity finds equilibrium. So she sits serenely between the forces of positive and negative, offering her love to both. And on her head, she wears an iron coronet. Now, iron is the metal of Mars, but here it doesn't represent war or destruction. Instead, it stands for strength, energy, and the driving force of life, tempered and balanced. Now, her coronation with iron shows mastery over force. She has conquered imbalance and now reigns with calm authority, ready to usher in a new phase of manifestation. In her right hand, she holds a sword, pointed upward, a symbol of victory and of the spirit's power to cut through illusion, dividing truth from falsehood. And in her left hand, she holds a scale, the scale of number 8, where every soul must be weighed before initiation. In the Marseille Tarot and its predecessors, Justice at position 8 underscores the number's connection to cosmic and moral equilibrium. The card represents not only civil law, but also the philosophical principle of divine justice, what some might understand as karma. Now, the sword signifies discernment and clarity, while the scales represent balance and impartiality. And in this context, the number 8 symbolizes an unwavering order, one that is beyond human manipulation. It points to the ideal of balance achieved through reason, integrity, and accountability. So in the system or deck, Justice is linked to Libra, ruled by Venus, a sign of harmony, beauty, and relational balance. So justice then becomes not just moral, but energetic. It's about symmetry, the flow of cause and effect, and the return of karma. However, in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, first published in 1909 under the direction of Arthur Edward Waite and illustrated by, I believe, Pamela Coleman Smith, Card 8 is Strength, depicting a woman calmly closing the jaws of a lion with the infinity symbol hovering above her head. And this rearrangement, where Justice becomes 11 and Strength becomes 8, was intentional and reflects the influence of occult systems, particularly those of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, of which Waite was a member. Now, Strength is a card with a different tone. Here the emphasis is on inner fortitude, gentle mastery, and emotional intelligence. And this reinterpretation aligns with Leo, the astrological sign traditionally linked to this card, symbolizing passion, vitality, and the courage of the heart. Now, the infinity symbol over the woman's head reaffirms the concept of spiritual endurance and control of primal instincts through higher consciousness. So Leo, the sign associated with strength, was deemed more appropriate for position 8 as it aligns with the solar energies of courage, self-expression, and personal strength. Justice, associated with Libra, a sign of balance and law, was moved to position 11 to match these astrological attributions. The reordering was designed to harmonize tarot symbolism with a broader mystical framework. But whether it manifests through justice or strength, 8 points to themes of balance, power, and continuity. It marks a turning point in the Fool's journey, a moment when raw instinct must be channeled, or when ethical awareness must rise above personal will. Thank you for being here today. It is always nice to explore how something as simple as a number can hold such complex beauty, mystery, and power. So next time you see the number 8 on a screen, watch, in a symbol, or maybe in the shape of the path you're walking, you may remember that hidden truths are often hiding in plain sight. Now, this number asks a lot, but it gives back more if you're willing to walk the full circle. Twice. After all, the ancients weren't wrong. Numbers do speak. if you know how to listen. And before I go, I'll leave you with a quote, one that speaks not just to this number, but to the very spirit of wonder that may bring us closer in topics like these. According to Iamblichus, this is a quote by Pythagoras, who said, "Number is the ruler of forms and ideas and the cause of gods and demons." Thank you for watching and listening. May your path be balanced and ever unfolding. See you next week. Bye.